and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councillor Moore?
Here.
Councillor Robichaud?
He is actually excused. I entertain a motion for his to accept his.
I make a motion that we excuse Councilor Robichaud.
Second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you.
Order passed, vote 6-0. Councillor Larichelle?
Here.
Councillor Lund?
Here.
Councillor Fellows?
Here.
Councillor Smith?
Here.
Councillor Miller?
Here.
All right.
First item, please, whenever you're ready.
All right. First item is a workshop with the Maine Municipal Association. David Barrett will be talking about the town manager search.
Sir? Appreciate you coming in this evening.
My pleasure. I'm glad we could squeeze it in so we can get this rolling.
Absolutely.
Good,
We're
true.
ready.
It's in everybody's best interest, including Ryan's, probably.
Absolutely, yes.
So what we need to do tonight, we need to do sort of two things. One is to have a conversation in general about what you're looking for. So what are some of the council's priorities? What kind of things are going to go on here in the next 3 to 5 years that are going to be big projects or things the manager is going to have to be dealing with? And just get a sense from you of what's important so that when we start looking at resumes and candidates, and when I put an ad together, it'll be reflective of some of the thoughts you have tonight. We'll also talk a little bit about advertising. Advertising is on your dime, so we need to talk a little bit about where we want to advertise. Procedurally, what I'd like to do is I can have a draft ad ready tomorrow, and I think what we should do is have me send that to Ryan. He can circulate it to you, and if you can get your comments back to me by Friday, or actually we'll have Ryan include my email on the email, and then I can fine-tune the ad and we can get it placed on Monday. So if we do that, that's the 10th, that's the 9th. So a typical advertising period would be 3 to 4 weeks. So I looked at the calendar, and the 3rd of June is a Friday. So I think we would close it on that Friday and then start the rest of the process with the search committee or we still have some logistical discussions to have about the search committee's role and when that's going to happen and when it starts. But that we can have that conversation in the next 3 weeks. While the ad's running, we can sort of figure that stuff out. So that would get us to June 3rd, and then we can start actually doing the heavy lifting that goes on with the search process. So if that sounds okay, schedule-wise, let's work with that, and then we can get into the needs assessment piece. So I have a copy of the job description, which is really good. It's dated 2/22, so it's been updated, I think, pretty recently. And I also have Ryan sent me this document, which I'm not sure where it actually came from, but it's pretty good.
From the office,
Yeah,
I believe.
several of us at the office put it together.
For this actual search.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to figure out how.
We didn't know who we were going to hire.
Right. But I couldn't tell from looking at it whether it was something you used 5 or 6 years ago when the search was done.
That's brand new.
Okay. I have some ideas about how we might use that.
Yep.
Because it's a really good piece of work, which will help candidates really understand what you're looking for. So by way of background, I have that kind of stuff. So I'm more interested from you is what I talked about was things that you're really important to you as a council about what this person's able to do or skill sets that they have, management style, communication skill, those kind of things. I can figure out with Ryan the population and the budget size and some of the technical stuff that typically would go in an ad, but I really want a sense of what is it that the council is going to be hoping to find in a successful candidate. So I would just throw that out, and then we can work off of that.
And I think all the councils here actually come from unique backgrounds, so I think they'll all be looking for something a little bit different. So I mean, it's going to be kind of a unique individual. I think it's better just to start at one end and work our way through, and that way there. Harry, you want to start off, and I'll just work our way through the council.
Yeah, I think a, a manager that has a good background in tax, either tax law or municipal tax code.
Are they the tax collector? Do they hold that title?
I think they are, aren't they? Isn't the town manager
In the
tax?
past, they have. I mean, one of the things we're trying to do is not put ourselves in a predicament that we have in the past where if one person was to leave, would be in kind of in a kind of a bind. So I think the opportunity of us actually having an assistant town manager is going to change the responsibilities quite a bit of the town manager, and actually having a strong,
Be shared.
strong
Deputies.
department heads, I think will be a big factor too. So again, I think that's just, if they are, they won't be it won't be their sole responsibility. It'll be a shared responsibility on those levels. But again, I'll go back to Harry here because he probably can add any more to that.
Go ahead. I mean, I'll just.
Yeah.
One of the things I've always been interested in, and that's the pursuit of green initiatives or moving us forward in this world that we live in. Also, somebody who's particularly interested in the method of growth of the town. And lastly, somebody who presents a really good public front.
Yeah, I'd say the personality of the person is very important in terms of how they interface with the employees and the council and the public at large. And I think, touching on Dawn's last point there, you want somebody that can be personable and relatable and not, just stay in the office all the time. I think our current interim manager is doing a great job at that and, really showing how it should be done there. So I think,
Thank you.
He's someone to look to as an example.
Thanks.
If I could go back to your comment about growth for just a second before I lose it. So tell me about Lisbon's growth today. Is it largely residential? Is it largely commercial? Is it a mix? And so that's part A. And part B is, what do you want it to be?
I'm thinking more in lines of smart growth.
Okay.
In other words, using the infrastructure that we have without unnecessarily expanding it, yet allowing the town to grow both residentially and commercially.
Yeah, I think I'd say there's a mood in town that a lot of people would like it to be more commercial and industrial than it is, but is that realistic to attract that? I don't know. So it's always a fight there.
Do you have an economic development staff person?
Brand new.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Yep. Yep. I think, and I agree with both of you. I mean, it's one of those things where the growth is important, whether or not, definitely the residential growth it's happening and it's going to continue to happen with a recent, study that we did. I mean, and with the surrounding communities, I mean, I think the residential growth is going to happen regardless if we want it to not. I think kind of what Dawn's leading to a little bit is the idea of controlling that growth in areas we want to and actually doing it smartly instead of actually just, tilling up farmland and not have the utilities in place to actually make it smart growth. I'm looking.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
finish. I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, you go right ahead, Don.
I was just going to say, instead of, it appears somewhat haphazard at the moment, even though we do have standards in place, the growth is is not well thought out, I don't think.
I think it's happening by convenience at the
It
moment,
is,
not so
it
much
is.
by
Design.
design. Yeah. So
Somebody has a
yeah.
plot of land they want to build
Exactly.
on, and somebody else doesn't.
I mean, as much as I'd love to see a tenured person, I kind of would like to see someone that I'm not really concerned about, so to speak, the municipal background. I'm looking for a really strong team leader. I think as a community now and a town, we're actually putting together hopefully a really good staff of good department heads, and I'm looking for someone that actually will come in and actually lead that team, and actually in a positive way and give them all the reinforcement they need and be in, forward facing to the community. So, individual skills, I think it's important to have a well-rounded person, but I think the idea of actually being a good manager, number one, would be key. And again, that's not just, thinking actually as a background of a town manager, but actually someone that's actually managed a large facility or a business that actually has ability to utilize all the skills of all his employees that he has and keep them well trained and keep them moving forward and actually again, just being that leader from out front. Again, and just want to emphasize that necessarily doesn't need to come from someone that's actually worked in a municipality. I think there's a lot of people out there in the private world that actually have those same skills and maybe at a different level than the municipality. And if we have the right people, the right department heads, a good strong leader as a management team would be really beneficial. And again, I think someone could come in and show that they have those skills from an outside business.
Yeah, and in talking about the management team, is Lisbon in a place where you have people who are going to be here a while because of the hiring pattern, or are you like my office where we just went through, massive retirement succession planning kinds of things?
The post-COVID, move on. The hope is right now that we're doing things in place where, we just did a salary study where we're actually trying to be very competitive as far as for wages. We're looking at, we're trying to build a team that's going to be here for some while. We'd like to see people stay and have some tenure, and we don't want to be a training ground, so to be able to do that, we just need some strong leadership in place to actually make people feel that they're wanted but challenged also, so they can actually have growth. And I say management team because I think Ryan has alluded to, very much like you've seen that document out front of you, that if instead of one person trying to do something like that by themselves, if they work with the people, the peers, and I say peers because Ryan, I think, comes across as one of the department heads and is able to share with them and get information from them, much different than actually a manager that will just sit in there pointing directions. You mean? So, and that's kind of what we're looking for, right? So we want a team approach, so everybody works with one another, and we just don't have department heads stuck in different offices that think that they come in and do their job and move on. I think we just need to be working together, but move on. Yeah.
I think Fern's pretty much right on the right track. I'd like to see somebody come in who can work with the department heads that Ryan's been working real well with. It seems like they've really got their stuff down. So if we can have the manager come in, work with them, also work with all of the other employees under the department heads would also be good. Somebody who's willing to allow new businesses into town without maybe over-regulation, and if your sign might be a little bit big or a little bit small, it's not going to hinder your business or coming to town. I'd like to really see more areas developed properly in town as far as residential, and I think by talking to a lot of the residents in town and people on council, I think something like that would be able to be accomplished pretty easily if everyone's on the same page.
I would look for much more of a firm leader. We have a lot of new department heads. This is going to be the top that would then report to us. So I'd want somebody that could come in with a new group and kind of form them with the right direction. Too many people that are new without the right direction could everyone would go askew, and I don't think that would be. I think a firm leader would be wildly important. Someone that might have done a entrepreneurial background, kind of maybe retired executive, someone who's reporting based, someone who has a fair amount of reporting background that knows how to put together a proper report, something clear and concise without a lot of extras, ability to just get their point across quickly. The tenure piece is important. We don't want people coming here to grab a quick 3 to 5 years and then move on to the next one or out of state. And I think someone that could leave some of this kind of political stuff at home and focus just on Lisbon would be wildly important. Not to go one way or the other too much. I know that's a lot to ask in this political climate, but if you could find a well-balanced person, I think would be important. I don't know that we want to bring anyone one way or the other that would just kind of cram anyone's style too much. I think that would be important to find, at least.
It's not a lot to ask if you want to survive in that job. That's the key thing. So what's on the horizon for you?
I think there's some stuff I'll just add on, and allow the council to move forward also, is I think some of the challenges we're actually seeing is in our community is the idea is every community is the volunteer base is really kind of fading away just because people can't be as committed. So, I think our safety, public safety when it comes to fire and pretty much any public safety is, in a sense, is actually going to need to be involved over time and actually kind of look at it a little differently. We actually have, we're a community that used to have 3 different centers, right? We used to have Lisbon Center, and Lisbon Falls, and that's over the years merged really into one. But unfortunately, our town's still kind of split in half. We still have 2 fire departments, and we're not that used of a community. So, it's not unreasonable to think over the next few years that this new manager will be working on pulling together 2 fire departments to actually make one combined with probably a new safety building. So a lot of good things. I think Lisbon's actually in a really good growth period. It's just a matter of having the right person to be able to lead the people to make sure it's done correctly, I should say. I'll let anybody else add to that. Harry, as far as what do you see coming up? You're...
Yeah, I think we need to try to attract some tax base. Right now, a lot of our debts are covered by personal taxes. So I'd like to see them try to get some tax money in here on the commercial side, if we can. And we got to look at some zone issues, some zoning changes for residential. That's everybody's hurting for residential, and Lisbon's no stranger. If I could jump back to the previous topic real quick, I did do an interview with the former town manager, and some of the issues that she had was that the town manager should have a good TIF background, knowledge in TIFs.
Do you have some existing ones already?
We do.
Several, yeah.
They should have some tax law background, she suggested, and some knowledge in liens, either sewer or tax liens. And we are a council manager form of government, so I'm not saying that we need to restrict it to that, but they need to be familiar with how the workings of a council manager format goes.
And you have a charter, right?
We do. Yeah. And they should be able to understand they're going to have an assistant town manager that they're going to partner with. So
now that person, I know you're either interviewing or about to, so that person should be here. All else being equal.
I'm going to say soon.
That would be our hope.
You never know.
That's right.
It's true.
I don't know.
What
We
a-
had 70 applications.
Yeah,
We
what
got
a-
good odds.
Yeah.
What about HR? Is that a big deal for the manager, both labor relations side and personnel management side?
We, in the last 6 months, have hired an HR director, which we didn't have before.
Oh, okay.
That was
The
part
reason
of
I
our-
asked that was Diane said something to me about that at one point, that
That was a major
Lisbon was
issue
in dire
for a
need
while.
of
It was.
an HR
We
professional.
addressed some of the issues she had. We're going to be having an assistant town manager plus administrative assistant plus an HR director. that
We
we've hired.
We actually, the council actually, several months back, actually had a third party come in to evaluate our community and our employees. And with that, we got some really good information from, and with that came the hiring of a full-time standalone HR person and actually putting some stuff in place to actually try to solve some of the issues that we're having.
Was that in addition to the compensation piece, or was that all? So you did a staffing assessment, really,
Yeah.
and then you did the compensation before or after, however.
We actually, even beyond that, we actually did a job description, right? Basically, there was, and Ryan can probably, lead us a little bit more into that. So we've, some of the things that we determined that we needed was the idea of have proper descriptions of our employees, because over the years, as most communities, as things tighten up, people jobs merge, and we just needed a better description.
Right.
So our job descriptions, and that's where we actually, once we got the job descriptions, we're able to do a salary analysis to figure out what those positions really should pay. So the water's been really kind of mucky over the years because it just no one person's fault, but just as the recession came in a while back, a lot of things got tightened up. A lot of people started doing dual roles, and I think we're in a community now where we learn that we got to have the proper people in the right places and pay them the right amount of money, so we have people that stay tenured and get good quality employees.
The study that we did had an HR focus and interviewed many of the current town employees at that time, and as a result of that, the pay study was one of them after that. So, yeah.
I think the managers actually, I mean, and I realize this isn't really part of the application part, but more the selling approach is the idea. I think Lisbon's actually jumped over a lot of hurdles, and I think the new town managers are going to be coming into a place that some of the issues that probably have been not addressed over the years, again, no fault in any particular person, have been addressed. So they're coming into hopefully an environment that's much more friendly and warming, I should say.
Well, yeah, that's I suspect a big deal. I mean, we have to figure out how to get that in people's hands so they know that, so that they know that they're not walking in. I mean, you know, you walk into a place that's fully functioning and all you have to do is
Manage.
let people go, you know, and do it. Or you walk into a total salvage job and there are people who are really good at one and not so good at the other and vice versa. So I think it'll be important for us to convey to people, you know, where you think you are in terms of that stuff, as opposed to, you know, this isn't a train wreck and we need somebody whose skill set is total overhaul.
And I think if I can just add to that real quick, you have, as a few of the councils pointed out, you have the HR staffing assessment that was done, and then out of that, after meeting with numerous employees in the town, as they alluded to, there was then a pay study done on all the positions in the town. That says a lot when you have a council that moves forward to do something like that. And that was started before I took over or was appointed as interim town manager. But I can tell you from, I don't want to say an outsider looking in because I'm not, I'm just an interim town manager. It's important to know that you have a very supportive town government. And I can say that wholeheartedly, we do have a very supportive town government here in Lisbon. And we also have a very supportive community. And then in the town office, if you walk through the halls of the town office, we have a very good team atmosphere at the town. We all work very well together. It's town government. Issues are going to come up. They're brought to the correct people and they're addressed. But I think the important thing is making sure that you have a supportive town government. What I mean by that is your council and also your community. Mm-hmm. And in Lisbon, that's one thing. I mean, you can drive down the road and see the sign, "We are Lisbon." That's something you definitely feel in Lisbon more than other communities. And getting that across that, you know, we are Lisbon. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a very supportive community, and with that, I think that's why the community elected the councilors that we have, because they're the supportive councilors for this community. So,
and again, I think with that, I think it somehow, as you mentioned, to get the point across that, you know, we're not a stalled community. I mean, we're definitely on a roll, I think, on all levels. I mean, as far as our residential growth and our business want, I mean, I think there's more people wanting to come here than we have space for at the moment. So I think to be able to get that point across, that really this person is coming in and just trying to steer a ship that's really moving forward already. You know, it's not the idea of starting all over, you know, and I'm not sure how you bring that across besides the idea of using some of the stuff that's been, you know, in the papers in the last year where, you know, the real estate wise, you know, Lisbon is actually
ranked sixth in the
state
state
of
for
Maine
sales
as far as for real estate sales. I mean,
Of sales.
just sales, which means people want to come to the community, you know, and you know, business growth. You know, we actually have, you know, businesses like that's right across the street. I mean, the idea of the lettuce, what's that? Springworks Farm, which is just growing leaps and bounds, which is not just making local news, but it's actually making, you know, national news. So, I mean, we have businesses like that in our community expanding. So, I think to be able to show that, I mean, I think would be huge for someone from outside the community not knowing this to actually be able to see that there's a lot of good things going on. So,
I would also say that they've got to be able to manage. I mean, we've got a pretty historic group of people in town, that when you see an exponential amount of growth like that, coupled with a short side of real estate, really prices local groups or local families that have been here for a long time literally out of their own market. That some people have been here for 100 plus years. I mean, my family has. So to see some of the pricing concerns on that side, they'll get people coming to them. We talked about hardships before and stuff like that. I mean, yes, growth is great. We all love it, but it's important to manage that either with the new real estate areas that we're talking about, because if not, I mean, people get priced out real fast. And that would be a concern. I mean, people will come to their town manager to either vent or talk about or something. Just that's the person they're going to think to go to. They're not going to come before this group and say, hey, what's going on with the real estate market in Lisbon? But they may go to their town manager and say, hey, we're having a hard time making it. More people come in, prices go up. Taxes typically follow that based off new assessments, and it's a kind of a trickle-down effect over the course of years. So I would economically plan for someone who could manage that front.
Is affordable housing in part of the conversation?
Yes,
It
it is.
is.
Workable housing.
Yeah.
I mean, workforce housing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that, we've learned over the past, that affordable housing is based on the economics of that area. So, I mean, what we could think of as affordable housing may not be the same thing as Freeport's affordable housing or
No,
Portland's.
that's true.
I mean, it's all based on the relative of the area. So, so someone actually have a smart understanding of that. We want to make sure, as Don and everybody's put out, smart growth. You know what I mean? So, it needs to be well balanced. So.
We had, over the last several years, 10 years anyway, we've had entrepreneurs in town who want to be larger who said, I can't find workforce housing for my people. So that's an issue, as it is for many other communities, but we just want to do it right.
Yep.
And to have somebody who has, to add to the point, who has that ability doesn't hurt. And I think kind of everybody has said, we would love to have a town manager that loves Lisbon, for Lisbon, and just for the fact that we've had numerous people who've lived here who are city or town officials and quasi-officials who have said, I've been around here forever, and I want to stay here forever, and I want to see the town develop in the right direction. Well, it'd be great if we could find a manager like that. So, it doesn't have to be an old person, though.
No, I think that the idea of a manager that's actually has some background and actually, working beyond just their own structure, which I mean, Lisbon, we're very much centered in a lot of communities around that are struggling with the same concerns we have. And I'm not saying that consolidation is a big key word, but over a period of time, I mean, it seems though we are consolidating more when it comes to services, and not always by choice. It's just because of the way it happens. And whether it's our police going to a neighboring community or them coming to us for fire rescue, I think the lines of communication, the outreach needs to be really important. So if someone has a good background, the idea of those type of skills, it's really important, because we just won't survive just being our own little person here anymore. I think we would definitely need to be able to work with the communities around us and try to build off them and allow them to build off of us. We're not as Ryan points out all the time, we are not as much as we think we're a small community, in the main base of things, we're at top 10?
So out of 490 communities, and 492 communities in the state of Maine, Lisbon is the 13th largest in the state. 23rd largest. Sorry. 23rd largest in the state. So you think about that for a minute. 23rd largest out of all those communities. It's a pretty good size.
Mm-hmm. It is. What's one of the things that's going to drive the consolidation piece is workforce. Because if you can't hire people to staff your police department or your fire department or your ambulance service, you have to look sideways and see what other people, how you can do that. So that may be the thing that ultimately pushes people to do some consolidation that they weren't otherwise inclined to think.
And we are staffed. I mean, we haven't had those issues.
That's good.
And I think it's due to our Lisbon's reputation.
Any looming big capital things? You mentioned the fire station, that's obviously down the road a bit, but
Yeah.
anything else?
Lisbon's actually been very fortunate. So for the last several years, we've been actually doing a lot of gaining or picking up where we had left off. So a lot of our equipment's actually been updated. Our salt sheds that we've been kicking down the road forever, and I think I don't know if that's a sign of progress or not. I think we're eventually going to have a new salt shed here within the next year or so. So, I mean, that's actually just one of those capital projects that always was low-hanging fruit. And some of our utilities, sewer district actually is making huge improvements and getting to the point where I think we're going to be at a pretty good starting point to actually have good maintenance on those and be able to keep those going. So I think infrastructure-wise, I think we're actually trying to make leaps and bounds with, but there's always stuff that comes up, and as we mentioned, growth. I mean, we got to figure out how we actually put that in there. But big capital. We're not looking to build a new school that I know of. No gymnasium. We've kind of already gone down that route.
Our water department has some significant
the water
challenges, but the water department is not, well, it is a part of the town, but it has its own
Separate
charter.
entity, yeah.
But it's still under the umbrella of the town manager in a sense.
Yeah.
So even though they're not the direct manager, they do our HR, our insurances, and our loaning, our bonding is all still incorporated with the town. So even though it's a separate entity, it's still very much married to the town. So the town manager will have some weekly or daily.
Well, what I was thinking capital-wise is some of the water.
Water tower, yep.
Yeah, because that's a significant undertaking. Simple, but significant dollar-wise.
We had a major road project that we've been waiting several years for that is actually underway, which is good, Main Street. So I'm not saying it's good at the moment, but it actually will be good when it's all done. Yeah.
Probably the elephant in the room is the Rumbo project site, and that's, I mean, the new town manager is going to come into, I don't want to call it a bee's nest, but you could probably call it a bee's nest. Because there's a side wants to develop and there's a side doesn't. So, whoever comes in is going to be.
That's the big white building down on the river.
Well, white
used to be,
building.
now
It's all empty now.
Big parking lot.
Town bought it, and it's a question of, do we develop it or do we make it a park? So there's a lot of community split there.
Or a combination of both.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
There's been studies. I don't know if that's ongoing or that's completed, I guess, for the
It's ongoing.
Rumbo site that was done. That offered some different scenarios about what to do with it. It's right along the river down.
Right, but the town owns that property?
Yes. Actually, that process is kind of been in limbo until we got a new economic development person, and it'll come to a conclusion one way or another because of that.
But the new town manager will be involved in that at some point, I imagine.
And I think the other, as a community part of it, I think a lot of people where they say we have a shortfall is a lot of people that live on the Lisbon Village side of town really feel that they really haven't had the growth that the Lisbon Falls side's had, and no shortcoming from the council, because I think over the years we've actually been trying to do everything we can to try to get a Lisbon Village looking better and moving forward. I think it is going to just be some good team approach to actually how we manage that and actually get that part of town for people not thinking that they're not where they should be. I mean, there's been some growth there. There's new stores. So, Lisbon used to have two downtowns, two main
So
streets.
that way is the village?
That's Lisbon Falls, which
Where the
actually,
little downtown is.
exactly. And then on the other side here, we had Lisbon Village, which was another complete downtown
Yeah, the
main
traffic
street,
light.
By the big brick mill.
where Graziano's used to be.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
sure,
okay.
in that area. So,
And there's sort of an ebb and flow with that because, I mean, when I started here, working here, Lisbon was bigger than Lisbon Falls. I mean, Lisbon was jumping. Lisbon had the restaurants, had the nightclubs, had all that stuff. And Lisbon Falls was kind of relatively quiet. But it's kind of flipped now where Lisbon's basically shut down because the restaurants are gone, the nightclub is gone, a lot of the stores are gone that were there. The big mill is just apartments now. It used to be a working mill. So it's kind of moved now down to the falls, which leaves sort of a hole in Lisbon that we want to address. I mean, we don't want to leave them that way. So
Right.
we've got to try to figure something out for them.
There's a lot of good growth in that in the town, so it's not, I mean, with Kelly Park and.
Yeah, it's starting to
There's a lot of
clean
good
up.
growth in that side of town, because I think some of the, even some of the residential growth seems to be more on this side of town from Mill Street over than it is on Lisbon Falls, only because it's not a whole lot of opportunity in Lisbon Falls area for residential growth. So that's one thing Lisbon has been seeing a lot more of is the residential type of growth.
I think that makes some great opportunities for a business there, for people who come along with the right business to invest there.
I mean, there was a grocery store
Oh, there's everything you need.
on what used to be called Main Street, but Village Street.
Do it,
There was-
wasn't it, at one point?
There was the nightclub. There was Pojo's. There was Graziano's, Channel Marker, restaurants. I mean, it was Ronnie's Variety. I mean, yeah, it was jumping back.
Oh, you think if you get a bunch of people down there, that other stuff would follow eventually if there was a place for them to
Yeah,
go.
I think it's sort of kind of rebuilding that Village Street run right from 196 down like it used to be. I mean, that's where everything was.
Part of it is I think there's a lot of really small lots and stuff there on Village Street that makes it hard to develop.
Yeah,
You know, nowadays
yeah.
businesses tend to want bigger buildings than they did
Yeah.
50 years ago, so you need parking and everything. And Graziano's had a lot of trouble with parking down there, so.
We just did a
That's an
retail
issue.
study, so I mean, we actually have good, not just, how to say, not opinions, but we actually have some, some factual base that people could use, and the right person in economics and the town manager could actually sell if someone was to come in and be interested, to actually show that we actually have the growth and the need. It's just a matter of getting the right players in place.
Yeah.
It will happen. Just, we just want it to happen smart, that's all.
Well, your location is so good. I mean, comparatively, it's close to some of the more major population centers that Maine actually has, and it's not very far away from Portland and south. So it's, geographically, you're not challenged.
We're right in the middle of everything. I mean, you can go any direction. You could be in Augusta, in 30 minutes, or in Portland in 40 minutes. There's a Jetport in 45.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a great location, right, in the middle of everything.
And we have significant people who work in both directions.
Exactly.
As well as work from home now.
Right. All right, this is great, but this is really helpful. So what I'll do is, I said, I'll get an ad ready sometime tomorrow and get it down to Ryan. He can circulate it, and you can get whatever comments you have back for me to tweak the thing and have it ready to go on Monday. So in terms of the advertising, that's changed a lot. It's largely, a lot of it's
Internet-based, yeah.
electronic advertising. So sort of kind of typically what we've been doing, what a lot of our clients and towns have been doing, is a package of electronic stuff, and then we decide whether we want to do any traditional media, newspaper kinds of things. So what people have been doing is, the International City Managers Association has a newsletter and a website that it'll go up on for the whole time period that it's open, and that goes to 15,000 town managers, city managers, assistant city managers, people who are looking. So it's a fertile place. That's $450. The MMA website is free. The Vermont Municipal Association website is free for us. New Hampshire and Massachusetts websites are about $150 a pop. So that gets all of northern New England for people who are looking to come to the region or to move up to a town manager position from some other kind of position. We've been using Indeed just because it's free and it gets out there to a zillion people. I can't say that I'm overwhelmed by what I get, but I'd rather have lots than none, and I'll take care of that for you so you don't have to look at the ones that are not of interest. We've been using Live and Work in Maine, which is a sort of an alt website. It has nothing to do with municipalities per se, but it's people who live away, who are looking to relocate here, potentially come here, and It has generated some interesting, different kinds of candidates for people to consider. So that's kind of the electronic version. So you'd be all in at about $800 for that. And then the newspapers, we don't use them very often. It's not really how people are job hunting. When towns do decide to use them, it's more for making sure that the local population gets to see the ad, and so that they're, we'll put it up in town hall, and we'll put it on the website, your website, and Facebook page, and all of that kind of stuff too. But some places want to put it in the paper so that people who read the paper in town can actually see it and feel like they're part of the conversation. So the question is, which one of the papers would it be if we did that, if you want to do it?
I think tonight we actually have a person in the audience and put a front page article.
Well, that would help too. Anything helps.
And I'm not going to speak for her, but she's here tonight taking a lot of notes. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can get a big front page, Lisbon's hiring, perfect town, perfect community, right place to be.
Yeah, below the fold will be all right.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's something.
It's about $400 to do the Sun Journal on a weekend for the kind of, the box.
Yeah.
And
I think we can get a bigger ad for $400. What do you think? Can we bargain tonight? And, I'm just
Right.
teasing.
Different department, I'm sure.
It's all good, but I do think it's important to actually advertise some local, because there are still a lot of people that read the paper, and if nothing else, they actually talk to other people. So, I think.
Well, the Sun Journal and the other papers, the Times Record, but they're both owned by the same company, so.
Yeah.
But it'll also show up on their website
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So I mean, you get kind of print as well as
You get
there.
a bit of a double dip.
Right. And then do you use careers.com?
We don't, I'm not.
Jobsinmaine.com? Jobsinme.com?
We were using Jobs in Maine, and we were never getting.
I only ask because the more
We can do it. I mean,
more online presence you have, the higher search it will. I mean, just the SEO version. The more places you post, the more chances you have as it being the number one.
Spread it out.
Yeah, it'll just. I put it everywhere free online that you can, just because it'll bring it up in a Google algorithm.
What was the other one? Careers?
Careers.com, ladders.com.
All right, we'll take a look at that too.
Yeah, anything that's free will just bring it up further.
Oh.
Do you do
SEO
Press
for you.
Herald, BDN?
They're
Expensive?
really expensive. The Press Herald's about $1,100 for a Sunday box. And again, that's just not how people are job hunting.
Yeah.
Because it only goes in once, so if they don't see it that day, it's gone. And so it's kind of a hit or miss proposition. It would go up on the website for a while, but return on investment that's a harder one to make a case for, I think.
Okay.
But again, and the other piece is, we can start all this stuff, and a couple weeks into it, if we are not getting the kind of response that
Step it up.
we think we need, we can
Increase it. Okay.
make a move. So we don't have to do it right out of the gate.
No Craigslist.
Not behind the risk.
I think they're blocked on the MMA security system computer. So. Okay, I'm good. Anything else people want to talk about or share? Or one of the things that you need to think about between now and June 3rd is Harry and I had a conversation the other day on the phone about when the search committee, because I learned the other night when I was here that you have the search committee, the two counselors and these other folks that are going to participate, which is totally fine. The question is, when do they show up and start helping? And so we need to figure that out between now and June 3rd. And the options for you to discuss are who's going to review the resumes to pick interviewees. That's question number one. Is that going to be the search committee? Is that going to be the council? And then whichever of those two groups has identified X number of candidates that we're going to invite to Lisbon for interviews, we then know that the search committee would be the interview body. So the real question is, is that when they show up, or do they show up in the search earlier than that? And then once they're done with the interviews, then you all come back for finalists and negotiations and all the rest. So we have time to figure that little piece out, but we do have to get that done before we get to June 3rd, so we're ready to
I'll
go.
let you know.
And we are doing a dry run right now with the assistant town manager. We're using the same people with the same type of approach where, we actually had a group of counselors and management team that went through the applications and kind of actually sorted that. So, I mean, at this group, this scenario for the assistant town manager, the group is only coming in once the number has been eliminated to a certain number to start the interview process.
Right.
So so the first interviews. So, I mean, we'll see how that plays out. So we'll have a lot better idea within the next week.
And it's fine either way. I just think that we need to understand
what the roles are.
when their role starts and when they need to understand this too,
Yep.
when their role starts or stops, and when you have to be present. So,
Yep.
If the council decides we'll pick the interviewees and let the panel do it, the interviews, then we need to be able to do that. That way.
We won't be looking at every application or resume.
Well, you will if you
That's
want to, but that wouldn't be my normal practice.
Normally come through you.
They're going to come to me, and depending on how many we get, you'll get some subset of that.
Okay. So
me-
some of that screening will already have been done.
Yeah, when I say you, I mean either the council or the search committee. But so if you got 40 resumes, let's say, I would probably try to get you the top 20 so that you could spend your time looking at the candidates who are the strongest or really would present some really interesting opportunities for you, and not have you spend time on people who would not meet the requirements or the skill sets or what they need to have to do the job. And it takes a long time to sit and read through all that stuff, and you don't need to be looking at people who just don't have the qualifications. So you would get some subset of that. But if they're yours, so if you want to see them all, you'll get them all, but they still will be sorted so that you would know which ones I think would be in the top group and which ones I think would be in the second group or third. There used to be more than 2 groups because we had so many, but now it's usually just 2.
So at what point so we have a lot of candidates looking at this application. I mean, is there some guidance to them what the salary is in that first pack? At what point do we know if they actually even interested based on salary and that?
Well, we do ask people to put in their salary requirements, so we would have a sense of that if they answered the question. And they can go online and see what you're doing. So if they're doing their homework, they will know. And so asking for $198,000, that tells you what does that tell you? That they didn't look. But certainly, even if we get to the place where you're interested in Mary Smith, and Mary didn't answer the question before we spend time interviewing her and having you or the search committee or some combination spend time dealing with her, I would ask, here's what the range is. Is that something you can work with? And if it's not, then it's not.
I just seen this come up as a concern in one of the previous searches I was involved in of just, there was, we spent quite a bit of time actually interviewing people maybe from away that really would never fit within our
Right.
parameters.
Yeah, no, I would, if we didn't have a sense from their materials of what they were looking for, they'd get asked.
Yeah.
So that I don't have time to sit through an interview either if it's somebody who needs so much money that they're not even
Not a candidate. Yeah. Good. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Any other questions from council at all as far as at this level? I'm sure we'll have many more as we go through. Is it, when you share your email with us, what's the appropriate way of council to actually reach out to you? Can we as individuals reach out as questions, or should we work through our interim on that? I mean, it's because we just want to make sure we're going through the right channels for working with you.
Well, in general, I think it would be good to work through Ryan just because I'm not always in the office and I'm going to be away for a week very soon. So I think in terms of the advertisement, let's do it this way. Let's deal with the ad in a separate way. We can deal with the other stuff later. But for the ad, if you have a comment that you want me to think about, get it to me.
Okay.
If I don't hear from you, that means you're cool with what's written down.
Are you saying through Ryan or?
Well, that one I think you can. We'll include my email.
Yeah, and I can do a group chat and send to everybody, so everybody's get your email, so if something comes up.
Right.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're not really discussing those comments in the emails, because
Back
then
and
you've
forth
got a
with
meeting
each
going
other.
on.
Yeah.
If it's just your own personal comment, like, what about adding just this one word, or whatever it turns out to be, that's okay to do. But if you are, having a conversation about it, then
Just want to make sure we're doing it correctly for you.
I'm good either way. I just want to make it as easy as possible because we're trying to turn this around relatively quickly. So, if we do this, you get it sometime on Wednesday, and the ask is for Friday, close of business, and then me to have it all on Monday morning when I turn my computer on so I can do it.
It's for short timing.
It is. So whatever you think. I mean, Ryan can help figure that out too.
Personally, I think it would be best to go directly to you with everything by a deadline and then back to him.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
They'll have everything to me tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. and I'll get it to you. But
All you have to do is by me Monday at 8 a.m.
yeah,
That's
Monday
all.
at 8 a.m. Okay. Get everything to you. Whatever comes to me, we'll definitely go to
Okay.
you.
Feeling pretty good about it?
I am.
That's awesome. I think we're actually, I think hopefully some of the previous concerns and pressures are starting to relieve a little bit in the world, so hopefully we,
Yeah,
for
I'm
us.
excited about this one.
Our assistant town manager had any, we actually, I think we even, after the filtering down, I think we have some really good qualified candidates, so hopefully we have that type of luck with the search.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
All right, Lisa, I think we can get into the next subject. I know the chief, the interim manager, actually had a couple of things
Right.
he wanted to bring forward, and maybe this would be a good time to do it since it's a little bit before 7.
Yes,
Yes.
this is the time to bring anything that needs to come before the agenda starts.
So I'd like to request we add some items to the agenda. I apologize for being unable to add them sooner. We have a request from Public Works to add 3 items to the agenda. All 3 are RFPs, which require attention as soon as possible due to limited availability of product in time. It's my suggestion that we add bid award consideration to the agenda under the council orders, resolutions, and ordinance section following the paving bids item. These items are for the new solid waste truck, the salt building, and road striping, which we've talked about previously at other meetings. We have packets of information for council along with recommendations. If
Okay.
with council's approval, we'll add it tonight.
Do you want to actually have department head discuss these right now, or do you want to bring these up when they come up during the paving bids? Actually,
We could. Okay.
okay, if that's okay with you folks, yep. As long as we have a plan that we bring them and have some discussion, that's great. I think the packet does have all the information we need, so I think we can move forward with it. Just have to find out where we want to put it through. So,
All right. Thank you.
is there any other items that need to be brought in prior to us going the regular agenda?
Those were it.
That was it. I think we can bring that up actually a little bit later, maybe even in councils, or would you rather do that now? Well, I can actually bring it up, and then we can discuss it later at some point in time.
Put it somewhere on the agenda.
Yeah, there's been some discussion down on Main Street. There's, as everybody knows, there's construction going on. The businesses actually, I think Main Street's been closed a little bit more than they really thought they were going to close earlier, just because the location of some of the infrastructure. So I think if you've been down there during the day, it is a little bit of a challenge to get down into our businesses and stuff, which we knew was coming. One of the things that we'd like to do is right now with our sign ordinance, it's pretty limited to what the businesses can put out for signage. They're limited to size and from our ordinance. The state did, and what the construction company said, they would allow them to put signage on some of the fencing. What the thoughts was is coming from some of the businesses, they would like to actually be able to advertise anywhere they can, whether it's on the backside of the business or anywhere that would be appropriate to do it. And not going against our ordinance we have in place, I would like to have the council discuss the idea of putting a moratorium on the sign ordinance for the length of for the construction, so they can actually work without going through too many hurdles to be able to do that and not feel that they're doing anything wrong.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Having dealt with moratoriums in the past and having had some conversations, I know that we can do one. We have to do it for 90 or 91 days, and if we're working, you have to show that you're working on whatever particular problem there is. And so we have to be reworking on the sign ordinance. And just to mention just a little background on the sign ordinance, that was developed during the time when Amanda Bunker was here, and the concern was primarily done by the planning board. But the concern was to cover everything and to not allow stupid things to be done. In doing that, it is possible that that sign ordinance is a little aggressive, more than it can be. It needs to be tweaked. We started to tweak it once before, and when it went to the attorney, we realized that we still had some significant problems with political signs versus temporary signs. And we know since that period of time that the state has redeveloped their sign ordinance, and we still at least need to do that, if nothing more. So the idea of a moratorium kind of answers all those questions, yet demands that we go to work on that sign ordinance too. So,
With a moratorium or a
Emergency ordinance.
emergency ordinance, so that could be effective tomorrow. I mean, because I
For
know
91 days.
it is an emergency
Yeah.
ordinance.
Yep.
The moratorium is an emergency.
Yep.
so that could be effective actually through this meeting if we
Yes.
actually voted in as council.
Yes.
I'd just like to hear from other councilors, just to hear. I mean, I've been hearing some of the pressures from the downtown businesses that it is pretty restrictive to know that they're even still open, and I would like to actually have with this a process in place where it's just not free range, where there'd be some type of application process that would either need to come before the town manager or the planning board to actually just, so it would have at least a
That's
little
where
bit,
you tweak the ordinance.
a little bit of control. So, again, any discussion?
Well, is it a spot emergency ordinance for just downtown, or is it going to affect all the businesses in town?
Would affect the whole town.
So anybody in town can suddenly put signs all over there?
They would actually have to come and actually get a permit for what they were doing. I mean, so it wouldn't be just a erasing of an ordinance so anybody can put any sign up. We would actually do it in a way that there would actually be a process in place where they would actually have to come through to the town, whether it's a town manager or the planning board.
It'd be a time-limited thing. They have to take the signs down. I mean,
I think that's...
some businesses get a big sign up and they keep it up for 20 years. It's kind of unfair.
But I think the size of it and everything would actually have to be approved. I mean, so I don't think we're looking to... Right now, we actually have a very strict ordinance. So basically, if you have a sign in front of your business right now that meets the maximum size, you can't put up a second sign. I mean, and so to be able to go through that hurdle, we got to do something. And there's a lot of businesses like playing by the rules, so we just want to make sure that we allow them to be able to adjust without the idea of...
Who drafts that, the planning board or the
No, we do.
the council does that?
Well, we actually voted in, and we could actually, with some guidance, either with Ryan or actually, put together. It's not the first time it's been done. So I mean, I don't think it's something we have to reinvent the wheel on it. It's just more the idea of putting the safeguards in place so people just don't do stuff that's.
The safeguards are 91 days, so essentially this would be effective whenever you made it effective, whether it was tomorrow. Then 91 days, it would resort back to the sign ordinance.
Or the new moratorium.
Or the new
rule.
moratorium.
Yeah, and if you updated the sign ordinance, if that would be something that I would say that we'd task the planning board with, to update the sign ordinance to be in line with maybe looking at the state's new sign ordinance. That could be done during that time frame as well.
Yeah.
A group that town is trying to bring more commerce to town, I think, one, we should rectify that long-standing issue, as well as fix these guys that are hurting right now.
What makes this particularly difficult is our sign ordinance requires enforcement, and if you don't enforce it, it might as well not have it. On the other hand, if you do enforcement, it needs to be valid, and we're finding out that it may not be so valid in some places. So and it's causing a lot of pain. So we need to try to relieve that if we can.
I think for the immediate issue, because I've talked to a couple of them, I mean, a lot of them, and it is an issue. I mean, I won't name any names, but I know two that I spoke to yesterday that are feeling it pretty good.
And we're just at the start of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we can get those guys, at least, I mean, 90 days is almost, for us in Maine, almost end of summer.
Yeah.
I hate
And
to
the
say
other
it,
thing
but
too, to address Mark's point, for anyone to decide that they can put up wherever they want for the next 20 years would be foolish, because if the ordinance goes in place, it would,
you'd have to go conform to what the new one is.
yes.
No, you wouldn't, because it'd be grandfathered.
No, you wouldn't. You do not have to be grandfathered.
Not through an emergency, right?
But if we have a mechanism in place, if someone has to come in and get permission to actually to do new signage, I
Right.
think that's a key factor. So it's not just
It could be part of their planning board packet when they putting their plan together for their new business. I think that could be part of their packet.
I would think the planning board should be involved in
They will be.
drafting.
They have to be.
Have we asked the
Well, I had
lawyer?
asked that, and you said the council.
I have a question. Have we asked the lawyer about this? Because it's different to have where we're basically turning off an existing ordinance, and I've never heard of that being done, versus a moratorium on like new construction is a different thing.
So to answer your question, yes. As the counselor just pointed out, there's been a few businesses recently that have been affected because of the sign ordinance. I've had a couple businesses approach me about some of the issues, and they've actually approached several of the councilors, is my understanding as well, from just what they've said. So I did just run this by the attorney just this evening,
he
actually
said
this
it's possible
afternoon.
to do it that way.
And this would be something that would be explained as an emergency ordinance, especially where they have the Main Street construction going on, to be able to accommodate the businesses. And he said it would be effective 91 days is what it would be for. And he said it could be voted on by the council in one session.
Especially coming off of 2 tough years for everybody on everybody's Main Street.
I certainly support helping those businesses down there. I just want to make sure we do it in the right way that doesn't open a can of worms.
Yeah,
and
we
creates other
don't want to
problems
create
in other
new
towns.
problems again up already. So yeah.
And we do have a code enforcement also now who's actually enforcing the ordinances that we have.
Yes.
But with that being said, he doesn't have a lot of opportunity to actually allow businesses to put any more signage up if they're actually already got if they have the sign that's in front of the business.
Right, he doesn't have that
see.
discretion. I mean,
He doesn't have that discretion. So
Following the rules.
this would allow if there's a fence down the end of Main Street for one of the businesses on Main Street to put a sign there saying, look, we're still open, please come visit, you mean, or rear entrance available for this business. Right now, our code enforcement would have to say no to that because actually they just don't have the ability in the ordinance to be able to allow that.
Right.
And actually, during COVID, we had that same authorization on Main Street down there, so
Right.
we're not looking.
The barricade, we put stuff up for those guys when they
It's
close off.
temporary.
I think,
By definition, temporary signs are 90 days anyway.
yeah, and it's one of those things where, we have businesses that are trying to do it right, and we want to actually help them, the businesses, put up a big sign without actually doing anything. They don't care anyways. I mean, I say they don't care, but they're just trying to take care of their needs, what they need. We'd rather make our rules to the point where it fits and have people be able to do it the right way. So,
That'd be game.
and is that something that we could actually have a motion on now and vote, and that we're there, or do you want to bring it up to a different part of the meeting? And that would be the discretion of the council.
What would the motion be? I mean, what do we?
The motion would be to make a moratorium on the sign ordinance and to have the planning board work on actually redoing the ordinance to at least meet the state requirements.
So would they have to come before the council if people want larger signs, or who would be in charge of that? Would it be the code enforcement or who has
Planning
discretion?
board, I
Planning
believe.
board?
Planning board.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I would suggest that you would ask someone to make a motion to create an emergency sign ordinance and define it at 90 days, and that the planning board would come up with the details.
Mr. Fellows, would you be able to repeat that?
I would make the motion that we establish an emergency sign ordinance to supplant the current one, and that, as with all emergency ordinances, it lasts for 91 days.
And the planning board,
Effective tonight.
and the planning board being in.
And the planning board be in the development of a revised sign ordinance.
Do I have a second to that?
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Order passes 6-0.
thank you. I just know it's been a concern, so it's nice that we try to address people that are trying to make it work, that's all. All right, being that, now we're up to 7, we can actually continue on.
All right.
Next item, please.
Next item is good news and recognition. Order 2022-105, Kids to Parks Day proclamation. Whereas Kids to Parks Day is a national day of outdoor play, celebrated annually on the third Saturday of May, which this year falls on May 21st, 2022. The day connects kids and families with their local, state, and national parks and public lands. Whereas May 21st, 2022 is Lisbon's local fishing derby day at Beaver Park and other fishing areas in Lisbon. Following state fishing laws, we are asking families to bring their children fishing in the Lisbon and Lisbon Falls area. Photos will be uploaded to display all the great catches of the day on our social media pages. Whereas our desire is to offer a free day in our parks and to inspire all youth to participate in close-to-home fishing experiences. Our hope is to encourage all families nationwide to celebrate the day at local parks, public lands, and outdoor spaces. Now, therefore, the Lisbon Town Council does hereby proclaim May 21st, 2022 as Kids to Parks Day, acknowledging that Lisbon has several fishing locations, including Sabattis River, Androscoggin River, Little River, and Beaver Park.
Entertain a motion to approve the ordinance. I mean, the order. Do we actually typically vote on proclamation since it's an order?
We vote on a proclamation.
All right, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Thank you. Order passes 6-0. Pass that down.
No, other one.
Oh, thank you.
My name's Mark Stevens. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. Brunswick's doing something very similar, and they're inviting. They're not doing a fishing derby, but they're inviting everybody to go to their parks and trails and take photographs. We do too. We do like a virtual fishing derby where people take photographs. We'll upload them to our Facebook page, and whoever has the most likes wins like a couple dozen wings from Frank's. What Brunswick's doing is they get a free lunch with the town manager, and I think we should move in that direction this year. Something in that line. The winner gets a free lunch.
Did you say free lunch from the town manager?
No. Yes, I did say that, with the town
That
manager.
too, absolutely.
Just a suggestion, but I think we should move in that direction.
Should add the employees with it as well.
Yeah.
No pressure or anything.
Yeah.
It's done.
Good stuff, though. I mean, it's outreach. I mean, it's what it's all about, right?
Yeah,
It's the
absolutely.
idea of being part of the community. Next item, please.
All right, next item is Order 2022-105A, a proclamation for Building Safety Month. Whereas our town of Lisbon is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role to our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Safety for All, Building Codes in Action, the theme for Building Safety Month 2022, encourages us all to raise awareness about planning for safe and sustainable construction, career opportunities in building safety, understanding disaster mitigation, energy conservation, and creating a safe and abundant water to supply to all of our benefit. And Whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of Lisbon, Maine, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, we encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in the Building Safety Month activities.
Entertain a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Order passes 6-0.
Next item, please, whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Good work on that, Cliff.
Thanks, sir.
Next, public hearings. Once the chair opens the public hearing, those present who wish to speak, please approach the lectern to address the council chair. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record. Public hearing, off-premise catering license for the Railroad Restaurant and Pub.
All right, I'll open that public hearing. Is anybody here that would like to address? Seeing no movement, we'll close our public hearing. Next item, please.
Thank you. Next item is audience participation and response for agenda items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues that are on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
This time, it'd be the opportunity. Seeing no movement, we'll actually move to the next item, please.
Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion, unless a councillor requests an item be removed. Any councillor wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none, Order 2022-106, to approve the municipal accounts payable warrants for $260,826.17. Municipal payroll warrants, $421,330. I'm sorry, $421,000. I'm sorry, $421,335.41. School accounts payable warrants, none. School payroll warrants, $368,028.57. Workshop and meeting minutes for April 19th and 26th, 2022. For the renewal of the Mid-Coast Humane Animal Contract, the Animal Shelter Management, to authorize the interim town manager to sign the renewal agreement, which will be effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, and to set a public hearing on May 17th, 2022 for the Maine Blues Festival mass gathering permit and special entertainment permit for Flex Restaurant.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. I have a question, though.
I'll second it.
For discussion, go ahead.
Did we not have school accounts payable warrants? I see they're on here, but
They didn't come to us today, and it could be partly that we didn't receive them due to the clerk's office having been closed for a few days. But when I checked into it, I found that we'd be able to add them to the next agenda.
thank you.
All right. All those in favor? Next item when you're ready.
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2022-107, the paving bids.
Sir, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Andy Sear, Public Works and Solid Waste Director. I would like to ask the council to award a bid to Spencer Paving for paving. Spencer Paving has also given us a letter saying that they will not exceed the $475,000. Dennis Spencer and myself went through, and by the time we get done Wing Street, we'll do all the other roads in town first, then we'll hit Wing Street. Wing Street's going to be done on a 28-foot wide width, which will give us 4-foot shoulders that won't be done on each side. because the road's so wide. To bring it all the way across, there's really no need. So what I'm gonna do is actually make 2 walking lanes, and it's actually gonna be striped as such. So there'll be two paths for walking on either side of Wing Street, which eliminates doing everybody's driveway, cold planing, and all the aprons to everyone's driveway. And then it also saves us money on doing all their lawns. So in doing so, we're probably going to be able to get all the paving done in town by just doing what I want to do on Wing Street and not going, edge to edge. But we're having the main travel be 28 feet wide. So by the time Dennis and I figured that out, he says not knowing how much shim he's going to have to put down, but we're actually going to repitch the road, so the road will have that nice 2% pitch, and it'll drain down the sides to the proper areas, the catch basins and everything else. So that'll be a plus. And he said if we do that alone is saving like 20 grand. So by the time he gets done putting the shim on everywhere, he gives us a tally on every road that he does. And like last year, we had $50,000 extra at the end of it all, and that's how we were able to do Main Street. So I think by doing what I propose to do, we should be able to get all the paving done in the town for under, the $475.
Perfect. Do you actually entertain a motion so we can go through this one item for
I'll
discussion?
make a motion.
Yep. Have a second for discussion?
Second for discussion.
And I think it's a great idea on Wing Street, because that's a really wide road. I guess
Right.
a couple questions as being the council, I've had, as many people probably, discussions, people calling us on some of the drainage issues on the Wing Street area. I mean, those, with the drainage, with the tipping of the crown of the road, will that add to that at all, or is that something that we are in the process of trying to resolve some of those other issues?
That actually is going to alleviate some of the standing water issues, like just past Scottsdale heading towards Main Street. We have an issue where there's a belly in the road. That's going to alleviate that issue. We have one catch basin on the left side, so I guess it would be on the westbound lane of Wing Street that we have an issue with. We'll deal with that issue in either bringing that closer to the road or raising it in that gentleman's yard. This is the only issue that we have on that street as far as drainage.
Yep. And if there is areas in that 4-foot side area that there's some areas I know that are bad, you'll just pave those individually
That's correct.
instead of doing
Yep.
the whole width.
Pretty much the way we looked at it, there's not any real deterioration in that little bit of area that we're going to have on each side of the road, because when you actually do the marking of the lanes, there'll actually be some new hot top and old hot top on that, each walk path on each side. So when we do a 24-foot walkway, you're going to have 2 feet on each side plus the 2 feet. So you're going to have a 4 to 5 foot walkway on each side.
So, now I'm a little confused. I understand the paving part.
Yep.
But the walkway part
It's because
is old pavement?
Right, we're not going to pave all the way to the edge, because if you do that, then you're going to have to end up doing everybody's apron, everybody's driveway.
Right.
We're going to keep it, it's almost 3 feet on each side.
Okay.
So the new pavement's going to be cut in. There's going to be a ridge that, that they're going to plane down, and it's going to be paved right to that. So it's going to almost be like it's a continuation. It's just going to be new pavement and then 3 feet of old.
And the condition of that existing old pavement is?
It's still good. On the edges is fine. It's in the middle of the road where it's deteriorating.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they did that on Route 9, actually, and they
Oh, yeah,
just
I
did
know.
travel.
I'm just
That's right.
kind of worried, if I'm a
well there.
neighbor living on that street, I'm wondering what the look is when I look out my front yard, if I'm,
And it's, I can ask Dennis, because all they do, like they did on Route 9 and they did along 196, is they spray down emulsion. And it makes it, spray paints it, makes it look all brand new.
well, that was the thought.
And we could probably do that without any issue, because the emulsion's not really that much money.
I was just saying, if that was done, it would make it look
Yeah.
Is there many more roads in Lisbon Falls that were paved that wide, or is that
No.
one of the few?
That's one of the few, and it only goes to Scottsdale like that.
Yeah,
From
I'm
Scottsdale up, it narrows up.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if a longer-term project down the road might be economical to narrow it like it ought to be,
Well,
as a long-term project.
as a long-term project, yes. But
What
then
are
you get your catch basins that are still outside the paved area. So,
Yeah.
if you pull all that stuff in, then you got to pull all your
Yeah.
catch
okay,
basins
yeah,
in also.
yeah, so it's big.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
For plowing, with the pitcher, you're not going to send the little snowplow guy down the walkways, are you? Or is it
No,
gonna-
no, we're still gonna pave, we're still gonna plow the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go from lawn to lawn. We're still gonna plow the whole thing.
And that, kind of that grade going down to driveway, that won't create pooling or anything like that in driveways?
You'll never even see it.
Okay.
No, it won't be noticeable at all.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the paving? Good, I'm glad we're able to even do what we're doing, because the cost, I was kind of concerned, but it's great.
And which gets, we're still paving River Road, so that's another dirt road off my list. So eventually, in the next couple of years, we'll be all done with dirt roads. So,
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, please.
Moving on to the items added to the agenda. First, Order 2022-107A, the semi-truck for the Solid Waste Department.
These are fading away pretty fast, I assume, huh?
what's that?
These trucks are fading away pretty fast.
They are, and I was able to go with Daigle and Houghton. That's with an international truck, much like the other truck I was going to order, but cheaper. By the time I got approval from council on the other truck, and that was through O'Connor. They got a $5,800 price increase on a surcharge, and going to bat and trying to go to bat for them, and to see if we can get that money approved. I went back to the other dealers and asked if there was going to be any more surcharges. O'Connor told me that they can't guarantee that there won't be any more surcharges between now and delivery, which wouldn't be until August or September. And I said, that's kind of unacceptable. I said, because in my mind, if they're trying to make up for a shortfall in their bid, they could do it on the end, and we're left holding the bag. I'm like, that's unacceptable. I'm not going to sign anything for that. Went to the next lowest bidder after they added the 5,800. It put them out of the ballpark. So the next lowest one was Daigle and Houghton with an international, same specs, 465 horse motor. When they first initially quoted it, they didn't quote with an automatic transmission, but adding the automatic transmission. But they hadn't given us a quote for the trade-in, which once they did, they gave us $11,000 for the trade, which was $1,000 more than anybody else. So, low and short, they came in at $147,478, being $2,478 over budget. But that's really not bad for the truck we're getting, and it's only going up from here. So that's the cheapest I can get. You can save $8,500 if we went with a standard transmission, but as Fern mentioned, we'd like to go with an automatic because it opens up the door for more drivers. The more drivers I'm getting now are only certified for automatic trucks.
Entertain a motion for discussion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Go ahead.
So where's the extra 2,400 come from?
That was going to be my question,
Or
but
2,500?
so we,
Have to add it to solid waste
Budget.
FY23 operating budget and an equipment line item, raising that total department budget by $500.
since
Still
that
an
budget's
approved
still in
budget.
works, we can actually still modify that prior to the approval or
That's correct.
final vote.
Or you can make the decision and take it from undesignated funds for the next budget? No? All right.
I think we're better off to put it in the budget since
Yep.
we're still working on it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Stand
like
there.
$2,500.
Figured I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, no, it's,
But we
it's
got
that-
clear.
we got to know what our
Okay,
options
right,
are.
yeah.
We already have to know what all our options are.
Yeah.
Truck-wise, I mean, my history on these type of trucks is the chassis is pretty much the same from one vendor to the next. Basically,
the
all you're
same.
buying is a different emblem with this. So, I mean, when you spec it out with the same drivetrain, basically same axles, same engine combination, it's
It's actually the same Cummings that the other one's going to have,
exactly, it's basically the same
Different
truck.
hood.
Just different hood, different emblem,
pretty much.
a little different. And again, it's so I have no problem with that. The automatic is, to me, was key for sure.
Yep.
Any other discussion from council?
Should we approve this contingent on passing of the revised budget, or just leave it as it is?
I think we should just pass it so we can buy it and get it in the pipeline,
Yeah.
because otherwise we'll be waiting,
Before it
who
starts
knows when
going
we
up, yeah.
pass
We
the
gotta- we
budget.
gotta lock
We
it
go
in.
now.
What's that, Harry?
Before the prices start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
there will be no money that actually changes hands until the next,
That's correct.
till next budget season.
So it's obvious that we have to pass the budget.
Correct, yeah. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't work anyway, so. That being said, all those in favor?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next
Order
item, please.
passed, 6-0. Next item is Order 2022-107B, the Salt Building for Public Works Department.
This is the big one.
This is the one that we've been talking about forever.
Yeah.
And also over $2,500.
Huh?
And also over 25.
25,000.
25,000. Yeah.
I wish it was 2,500.
Yeah, right.
I'd probably chip it in myself. Okay, so a year ago when I was looking into this with the same contractor, basically when we were checking into the New Gloucester building, whether it would be feasible for us to tear that building down and relocate it and put it back up on our lot. We're looking in the tune of $375,000 just for a used building by the time, new foundation and everything. This salt shed here is a 60 by 90 with the overhead door. It's a 20-foot overhead door. One single door in the front, vents on either side, arch type, so it's like the Quonset hut style. The concrete walls go up 8 feet out of the ground, almost 5 feet in the ground, with a 9-foot footer on the side wall, on the edge walls, on the sides, and on either end, 7-foot footer, 18 inches thick. We went down to 12 inches thick and went wider. So the exposed concrete on the inside is also covered with pressure treated and painted, so the concrete never gets exposed to the salt, and that goes right up into the steel building where it's actually cut out where the Quonset hut's always, got the ribs in it and it's cut to fit. From the time I looked at one last year, I was at $435,000. That's why I came up with the $450,000 price tag. That's how much they've gone up over a year, and he says it's not going to get any better. The laminated beams, which are inside, now this is all laminated wood beams, so they don't rot. Most steel buildings only last like 15 years. That one in New Gloucester was 28 years old, and the wood was still fine. So by going with the laminated beams, there's a lot less corrosion that happens, and you get a lot better longevity. We're looking at 30 to 35 years minimal. So for the 477.5, like he said, the prices are only going up. He can only guarantee this price for a certain amount of time. And what we're going to do is I'll do the excavation to save money. I'm doing the excavation. I'll remove the old walls that we have on 3 sides. The one closest to the transfer station will stay because we're not going as wide as the footprint we have now. And what we'll do is that will actually have some storage area that I'll be able to put my plows and stuff on the other side of the Quonset building. And there'll be an area that's paved and have 2 walls. At that point, I can even put a lean-to shelter over there. We can build it ourselves. With the concrete, the building and everything, it came to $477.5. Now I'm $27,500 over. Since the budgets aren't done yet, we can raise my PW budget by the amount needed. And depending on how the end of the year goes, we're going to wait till June. I might even be able to kick some in and not using all the budget I had from this year in different departments, different.
Anything in motion for discussion?
I think we had one, didn't we?
Not on
Oh,
this
no.
one.
That was on the other item.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. I'll make a motion.
Doing a few
for
tonight,
discussion.
yeah. Want to make that motion?
I did.
Okay. Second? Okay,
I have a
go ahead.
question.
You go.
So how does that, I'm sure it addresses the salt leakage issue that we've had down into the well aquifer and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
In what way? How does it?
Well, what happens is right now we load our trucks on the outside. So everything that spills over when we're loading our trucks gets involved with the weather. So, of course, it's melting, going into the runoff across the street and getting into the brooks and the stream for high levels of, salt content. Our trucks will be loaded inside the building and have no exposure to the outside at all. The only salt that's going to get put down is from the spinner. So that's going to alleviate that problem 100%.
Thank you.
So this would allow us to store the salt we need for the winter now instead of having to get multiple deliveries every time there's a storm.
It'll allow us to store 2,500 yards, which will get us through 3/4. At least I will not, all I can store right now is 200 yards. This will give us the ability to store 2,500 yards.
So you can just refill halfway through the winter rather than every storm.
I could be on their list, and I don't care if I'm 10th on their list. I'll order some when I get like halfway. Come in, push some more in there, and I'll be done for the year. And if I use my allotted, like this year, I didn't use everything I was allotted, but if I use everything that I need, maybe it could be a year, I could skip a year, or really drastically reduce my salt, But at least every year I'm kicking some money back from not using all the salt. And I'll also be, sorry.
Yeah, well, Mark, I mean, 25 grand by not doing this project, how quickly do you think we spend the 25 grand doing the runs and ordering?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, single year, 2 year? I mean, is it a 1 year, 2 year ROI to spend the extra 25 grand to get it done?
I can almost guarantee you I can save 25,000 by us trucking it ourselves through the summertime.
Yep.
With the new truck and the trailer that we have. The price per ton that I pay delivered, if I just truck half of that myself, I'll pay that 25 grand back.
So it's almost a break even by having it.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I need.
And I could truck it throughout the whole summer.
It's been one of those items that we've been talking about
Yeah.
as long as I've been coming to council. You mean, that's been a necessity that just been put off, and unfortunately,
You call this the closest approach because it doesn't look like it's going to get any closer to affordable.
yeah.
The existing foundation that's there now was built in 85 and 86. And nothing's happened with it since, but it's gotten hit and crushed and everything else.
Yeah, I think this is really a need for our town that we've just put off for a long time, but it's needed.
It'll help us with that DEP issue we've been having with the salt content in the water. So,
Potentially, anyways.
And well
Yeah.
replacement.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've already had to replace one. So.
Any questions from council on this matter? Subject. That being said, all those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Order passed, 6-0. Order 2022-107C, the road striping recommendation.
Road striping, we've only gotten one bid out of the 5 that we solicited. And it's been Lucas Striping, the one that's done it for years. He came in at $24,095, which is under the $25,000 we usually allot for that. He's not going to be doing, of course, Main Street, so he deducted all that all the way to Houston Street. And but on the other side, he said that he could probably help me out on Wing Street once we're done the paving, so which is really nice. Yep.
So that doesn't include, once again, it doesn't include walkways, right?
No, we do our own walkways.
Okay.
Yeah, and I heard there was a request that we do them a different way.
Yep.
Like putting the hash marks in instead of just the 2 lines. Just going to cost a little bit extra in paint, but I've added that into my budget.
It makes, we've talked about it.
Aesthetics actually does
Aesthetic-wise, yeah.
Show up as
stick
blocks.
out more.
Yeah, it's much
The only
more
other
visible.
issue I have on striping, it doesn't have anything to do with him, is Davis Street. That's the walkway thing with the.
Oh, down the side?
Which isn't. I rode down it the other day, and it might as well not even be there because this paving is so bad, and it's everybody's parking there.
But
So-
typically what we do is we actually stripe that road with a little extra wide, and then we actually put bike.
Yeah, a bike or a walking
Yeah,
person.
exactly. And that usually at least deters people, and if not, it gives the police officer driving by an opportunity to see where where that
Who's
designated
parking
area
there
is.
where it says no parking?
Yeah.
I know there's been some discussion about trying to get more, parking down there, that end of the trail, because that's where everybody's parking the
Yes.
road, is the trail use there, and I think there's some land right across from there that would be.
That's not the parking I see on Davis Street, though.
Right, what
Yeah.
I'm saying is there should
Yeah.
be some more parking down there, so people
It's all
wouldn't
the trailer
on
park
the-
that's
the
been parking
biking
there.
lane.
But yeah, they do park in the way.
Right, there's no other parking down there, so it's what they use.
If time progresses properly, maybe we'll actually have a nice, different
Yeah.
path
Yeah,
to the,
Right.
that would be
down
nice.
through, which actually will lead to all kinds of parking, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Entertain a motion for the stripes. I don't think we've done that yet, Don, so.
Your turn.
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you.
All right.
Order passed, 6-0.
And I don't know if this is the time to ask, but since the salt shed was approved, once it's built, I'd like to dedicate it to Elwood Beals, if that would be at all possible. I just think with all his years of service, I think it would be a nice gesture, but just my feeling. I don't know about how everybody else feels, but
Yeah, I would strongly support that. He was a
I
great
think
guy.
you actually
He
bring,
put in a lot of years
bring
for the town.
together a recommendation. I think we'd be able to.
You wanna vote on that?
Right now, do you rather do that now, or?
Well, what does it look like? I mean, what are you talking about, John?
it's just going to be a sign, and it's going to have like probably green writing or, a nice, good-looking sign, probably over the door or, on the front side where everybody coming into, the transfer station will be able to read it. The Elwood Buttons Beals.
Why not come to us with something?
I can give you a rendition of what the sign would look like.
Yeah, we got a little bit of time, so I
Yeah,
think
we
if
got
you
plenty
can
of time.
bring it to a little formal, a little bit
Yeah.
more formal presentation, I think that'd be good, so we all
Yeah.
can understand it.
Yeah, and I can send you a memo at the time and
Yeah.
have an
I
attachment
agree in
with it.
principle, without a doubt. It would be just nice to see exactly how it would be done, so.
Something reusable. If we're talking 28-year lifespan, something that could be taken off and putting on the new one 30 years from now.
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Well, I think we get longer than 28 years out of it, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Next item, whenever you're ready.
Item 2022-108, the Public Safety Facilities Study bids.
Nate Leclerc, Fire Chief. As you know, we went out to bid for the study to conduct a study for the fire stations, and we added the public safety building possibility into the bid as well. We sent it out to 12 different firms, and we got 3 bids back. Port City Architecture, Artifacts, and Simon's Architects. After reviewing the proposals and looking at the pricing, Chief McGee and I had recommended that we go with Port City Architect. Option number 2, which includes the public safety concept, at $38,410.
Entertain a motion for discussion.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any questions from council? And not just because it's low bid, but I mean, has this company, can you actually kind of back them up as that they've done other studies in Maine for different areas?
The most recent one off the top of my head is Yarmouth used them not only to do their study, but to do their architectural designs as well for their new building.
They're well rehearsed in this type of scenario.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the pricing that's in front of you, one of the things that we noticed is that Port City is using their consultants in state, whereas the other vendors are using consultants out of state. So that
expensive.
Yeah.
And
What was the budget for that?
they came in just under budget, right?
No.
It actually, this
Just
one's
over.
We're at 28, or where were we at for, what was our allowed amount that we actually had budgeted?
I think it was 30.
30 originally for the fire stations only.
Okay.
Knowing
that's right,
that,
too, because we
right,
actually
and
went
knowing
option
that
two.
the public safety part would drive the cost up.
Which I think would be foolish not to actually add that at this point in time.
Yeah.
And time frame wise, are they able to meet your
Yeah,
requirements?
we've because when I wrote the RFP, I actually wanted to make sure I allotted enough time. If I made it too short, then people won't put in. So from the time that we award the bid or tell them, hey, here's a starting gun, go, they have 6 months to come back with the study, and the 6 months is what I've been told is an adequate time frame. So in 6 months from the time we award this and they get the okay to go is when we should have the report back within 6 months.
There's really a significant, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead, Don.
there's a significant difference in the bids. Do you have any inclination as to why?
Consulting firms.
Only some of the bids, not all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not just one, all of them.
Yeah, the only thing we can really think of, if I can show you, but the one that we looked at actually broke down their stuff by hours and what they estimated for hours, where the other ones just gave lump sums.
Okay.
And again, the only thing we can really nail this down to is the other firms are using out-of-state consulting firms, one out of D.C. area, to help them do the public safety aspect of this.
And I'm sure you've actually.
We do have experience with Port City, or somebody does around here and knows.
Yeah, Yarmouth, I think Saco, yeah. So all three of them have experience in the state of Maine. So talking to, Alan Ward has sent back and said that we would have, with either Artifacts or Port City, we should be fine with. He's familiar with both agencies.
We actually have a pretty good connection with Yarmouth and know that they actually were well taken care of and actually got information that was valid for what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Good. Is there any other questions from council at all?
So where's that extra $8,000 coming from?
Good question.
Well, first it's,
That's okay.
there is some money that was allocated and there's a funds for a project that was not utilized, that we can offset that. The boiler project for Elizabeth Falls Station, those prices are coming up way higher than what we originally anticipated. We did the budget last year, so that project wasn't done. So that will help offset that.
This is this year's budget.
This is this year's budget we're talking about. This is something that would actually be started on within a short period of time.
Yeah.
If it's approved, right?
Yeah.
It was in FY22 unassigned fund balance.
Yeah. Yeah, which is coming out of TIF funds,
Yeah.
which will offset this. So.
Any other questions from council?
So the ask is for 38,
38,410.
which includes the police department along
Yes,
with the
sir.
fire.
Yep.
Public safety as a whole, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good move.
Yeah, it's looking at some of the other studies that have been done by Yarmouth, Skowhegan, and some other ones, and I look at their studies and what they're proposing. When you start looking at some of the towns that there's one that's kind of to the southeast of here, that over time they spent so much money doing a fire station, then a police station, then this. And over the course of that construction, the towns are paying out a lot more money than just doing that one public safety building. It's going to be interesting to see what the study comes back as, but I think it's definitely a option to seriously look at.
Yep. Absolutely. We'll never know until we get the information, right? So.
Absolutely.
A quick question on that. Public safety, are we stopping that at fire and police? Are they going to,
Public safety as a
hypothetically,
whole, I would think.
as a whole, like a ambulance unit or 2 or 3 or 4?
Well, that was they're going to assess the emergency operations of our town.
Okay, so everything.
However, Lisbon Emergency is a separate nonprofit private agency. That's not really part of our. But I mean, I do EMS in my department, so that is taken into consideration, even though we don't do it to the extent that Lisbon Emergency does.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to Cliff's point, if it happens that we end up with our own ambulance unit, is that included in this as far as the spacing, availabilities, or?
Well, that's part of the study, is doing that space needs analysis.
That's part of the analysis?
It'll be whatever we actually give them for parameters when they do the analysis.
Okay. We probably ought to do that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Perfect.
Order
Thank you.
passed, 6-0.
Kind of anxious to see what they come up with.
And I do believe, if he hasn't done so already, the original PDF for the Port City, was that sent to them? Yeah. If you want to see the other ones, I do have copies of those if you want to see the other ones as well. But
Very good. Thank you.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, on committee reports.
Next item is other business council committee reports.
School, I have nothing to add tonight. Planning?
They didn't meet.
Okay.
No, their next meeting is next week, I think.
Business Development Committee, I don't think there's actually been anything since that last. Conservation Committee?
I've got nothing because they meet when I'm here, so.
Parks and Rec, I think.
I'm pretty spoiled. Mark was here last weekend today. So
Yep,
I
so
have a
you're doing
good
pretty
update
well.
there.
Yeah, you got good coverage, yeah. Budget Committee, that's still,
In the fall,
yep. Library, they were actually,
there's actually tomorrow. There's a Star Wars, May the Fourth be with you celebration thing in the afternoon at the library. If people want to dress up in costumes and go down there, they're going to have a meet up for like the kids and stuff. So you can, there's like green screen. You can be in backgrounds and everything. So
very cool stuff.
my stormtrooper costumes in the shop.
Water Commission
No, I haven't. I have nothing new.
and Finance Committee. Mr. Councilor Bashar is not here this evening, so with that being said, we'll move on. Next item, please.
Okay. The town manager's report.
I have a couple of things. Streetlights on Route 196 by the intersection of Main Street. It's brought to my attention by a business owner that the decorative streetlights on Route 196 by the Main Street intersections are not being replaced as part of the Main Street project. I have looked into this and confirmed with DOT that those are outside of the scope for the DOT project. I have also contacted Jeff Kelly from Enterprise Electric about the cost to replace those 5 lights with the same design as those ones being installed on Main Street with the DOT project. The cost for the town to replace those 5 lights on 196 is $87,500 with the wiring and bases. Then there would also be additional cost on top of that for repaving the sidewalks in that area of Route 196. Replacing the 2 lights closest to Main Street on Route 196 by the intersection would be $35,000 plus the cost of repaving the sidewalks. DOT's suggestion was to wait until Route 196 gets redone in that area. However, there is no time frame on this. I've spoke to the Public Works Director, and he explained that those lights, the heads of those lights are actually owned by CMP. So I have the Public Works Department working on that to see if we can get those replaced with LED lights through CMP, and then we'll just redo the bases, and hopefully we can get the replacement heads so they match the Main Street, so we can make that whole project look nice. So that's something we're working on right now. Still waiting for any type of cost on that, but it sounds like it's going to be substantially lower. Update on the town HVAC controls. I know I brought it up in the past as far as thermostats. Had a meeting today with Thayer Corporation. We did a walkthrough, not just the town office, but we did all town buildings, incorporating basically a plan to update the thermostats in all the buildings. And so we're working on that. They'll be providing me with an update in the next couple of weeks. Let's be able to have a more stable HVAC system. And I'm also talking with them on working on a CIP plan for the town's HVAC equipment, so we'll be better prepared in budgeting in the years to come. So they're working on putting something together on that, not just for this building, but all our town buildings. I know it's been discussed several times as far as the CIP. A solar panel update for the town. Don Willett worked with Brett Richardson to enroll the town of Lisbon into a community solar farm. Don has an unfortunate update from Nexamp, the solar developer. Don received a message from them telling him that the solar farm that the town of Lisbon is scheduled to be part of has been significantly delayed due to part because of permitting and utility issues. The new projected date of being in service for our community won't be until the second or third quarter of next year. And I also have Ross Cunningham working on this with him. But those savings won't come as soon as we wanted, but just wanted to give you an update on that. And the last update I wanted to give you was something that came about this past week with a sewer treatment plant. On Wednesday, the 27th, it was discovered by Steve Avioli that the grinder on the inlet feed pipe for the centrifuge had started making an abnormally loud noise. Upon investigation and discussion with the manufacturer, one of the bearings within the reducer is failing, and the reducer is not a repairable item. The reducer needs to be replaced, and the manufacturer recommended replacing the grinder cutting blades at the same time. It is suspected that the noise they were hearing is from the blades. The purchase was deemed an emergency so we can repair the grinder before complete failure, and the cost would be twice as much. It should be known that this piece of equipment is still online when the centrifuge is online. The centrifuge cannot run without it, so it's part of why it's being deemed an emergency. The cost of the parts to do this repair came to $11,569, which is why I'm bringing it to your attention. Anytime it's over $10,000, I bring it to the council's attention. And we're expected to have it shipped in 4 to 5 weeks,
As can be seen by the expected ship date, we cannot put this purchase in risk unrepairable damage to the grinder housing, motor, or any other parts. Due to the timeline to receive the parts, this route was the most advantageous to getting this repair done at the lower cost. Also keep in mind that this order was placed directly through the manufacturer of the grinder, so the RFP process may not have been as much benefit, where this is going to be like sole source directly through the manufacturer. And I also have Steve Avioli here in case there was any questions that the council had as well.
Any
Steve, you wanna come
warranty? Any warranties, Steve?
It'd be the manufacturer's warranty, which is typically about a year on these parts.
So is it under warranty or no?
No, it's been there a long time, right?
This actually, this piece of equipment will be replaced with the dewatering equipment project. We're starting to get going now. And what we're going to end up doing, similar to what we did with the Davis Street pump station with the grinder there, we replaced it 2 years before this project at Davis Street started. Similar situation here. This part, this grinder, because essentially is going to be almost rebuilt after this, except for the motor, the housing, a couple other small parts. It'll become a spare for the new centrifuge. But currently this piece of equipment is about 19 years old, and it was rebuilt in 2011, I believe.
What happens if it fails totally?
If it fails totally, we'll not have a grinder to grind up anything going into the centrifuge, and it'll essentially plug up the inside of the centrifuge. So we really cannot run without it.
Bad things happen.
Yeah, it creates a lot of work. And with the current pricing and the availability, that's one reason we were looking at. If we try to leave it till we replace it, we don't know if it'll make it. At the same time, we don't know how long it will make it now, even if we try to go through the RFP process, because to get permission to go out to that process and move on with it, it could be a couple of months before we could even place an order.
Yep.
That's what we were looking at.
I mean, my opinion is it's much like a down fire truck. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to keep business going. So, I mean,
It's an legit emergency. So
you get a situation, you're going to need to address it. And I know that you actually have a decent fund balance where you can actually have the money's available. So it's just more the idea of just doing it the proper channels to get it done.
Yes, sir. We had about $29,000 remaining in our CIP line, and that's what we're using to make this purchase.
Yep.
And you said you can keep this as a replacement, like a backup for your new system, so
Yes.
even if sometime that one goes, you can plug this one in and use it.
And then we can go through the process as it is originally supposed to be done. And but yeah, section, I think it's 30. Hold on, I have it right here.
About emergency repairs, or
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to council. I mean, do you feel that you'd like to see a formal vote just so it's actually
No,
something done
this
through
is just essentially for your knowledge.
Yes.
No, I
It
think
doesn't
it's
need to be voted on. It was just essentially where it was just over $10,000 and it was an emergency. I'm just making you aware of
No,
what-
I think
Yeah,
it's a
like
good call, and I think at any time like that, I mean, it's an important factor, so.
Per the purchasing policy for emergency repairs, we can make that, do that expense. You just have to summarize it to the council as soon as possible.
We thank you for
And that's
doing
what
that.
we're doing tonight.
Yep. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
One thing I would bring up real quick, as we've seen a massive increase in inflation, we just did this with one of our operating agreements. We used to have a $10,000 cap. We've upped that to 20 for emergencies without a certain approval, because what was a significant improvement in our emergency at 10K, I mean, there's no emergency less than 10K anymore. So I know it would take a review, but 10 might turn into 15 just to make something like this a little easier, just to think of, only because I just went through it.
Yeah, that's just under our purchasing policy, right?
Yep.
It's not part
Yeah.
of the charter.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
No, absolutely. It's a valid one, because today it costs you 10,000 just to have someone think about what they need to do. Sometimes you forget about doing it, so.
Right.
If I may, to further Mr. Miller's point, we are seeing even at $1,000 limit, by policy, we're required to have town manager approval, and we're seeing a lot of purchases that before we could purchase without an issue that we're going to the town manager for, and he's very busy right now. So it's to a point that it'd be nice if, like to Cliff's point, if we can actually do something with the $1,000 limit also.
Yeah, make that
For the
2,500
time
or
being,
something.
until things get back to
Might be
normal, if there is a
something our new
normal.
assistant town manager might want to
Yeah,
work
especially
with.
with
But with a
department.
memo would be a good idea.
Yeah.
If we are going to be spending it, document it with a memo and then pay a
Yes.
different threshold.
Where's that codified in
It's in-
the charter or the ordinances?
That's
It's
under the
policy.
ordinance.
Maybe a town ordinance purchasing policy.
It just probably needs to be adjusted.
It's-
And due to
it's a
inflation,
policy.
it probably just hasn't, 2,000 is probably 1,000 what it was when it was actually written.
I don't
right?
think it's
So,
an
I mean,
ordinance, I think it's a policy, but
policy. Yeah, I mean, especially the discretion of a department head, if he has approval from the town manager, I don't really see that being an issue. I mean, to be honest with you, to spend $5,000 today is not unheard of on any particular, circumstance, especially if you have a breakdown, so.
We just sent a pump out to be rebuilt. We sent it out in March and just got pricing. We paid $4,700 for this pump in 2017. The other pump there, we actually had rebuilt once. It cost us $3,000. This pump now is costing us $7,200 to get rebuilt.
Same deal, right?
It's unbelievable. To replace that pump today is $13,600. I got a replacement cost at the same time we got the rebuild price.
It's just reality today. I mean, that's what it is. So we thank you for the information, and I think that is something to keep in consideration that for as we get staffed up to actually to look at some of those policies and just see where we do have shortfalls.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Anything else on your town manager's report?
I have a question for him when he's done.
You all set?
I'm good, thank you.
If we could go back to the solar agreement thing.
Yeah.
What do you think the odds of that actually happening are?
Well, right now I'm being told that it's going to be in the second or third quarter of next year. But then I had another person from Maine Community Solar, who actually is a resident in this town, reach out to me about some solar options. So I actually have the Economic Community Development Director speaking with him as well. That way we can try to get the best deal for Lisbon, I guess. Maybe someone living in this town might be more apt to try to get us the best deal we can. So I am speaking to that person plus the person we originally spoke to when we first did this first deal. And apparently it was because of permitting and whatnot. So,
well, the reason I bring that up is I know there has been talk in the past, we had a meeting at your place a long time ago, about solar options for the town other than that.
Solar for the
that's
buildings.
an off-site thing, but there was discussion in town about on-site stuff. So we might want to, in the future, through economic development or something, consider the options we really have.
Some of those other options actually considered us doing an initial investment and then actually be able to, bank on that investment over a long period of time. I mean, at that point in time, we really never thought that we actually had money to invest, but, I mean...
Well, one of the things that glares at you is the side of this building out there that has, that other businesses and towns have done something with, and I wonder where does the economics fit?
Yeah, I agree. And I know that, to your point, I've reached out recently as far as asking about solar panels for on top of the roof. Now, this is before I found out that nothing's going to be happening this coming year, and it's going to be the following year. But they explained that it would offset the amount of savings we would get because of the energy we would be saving. So I'm sure there's formulas and everything, but definitely we looked into it further.
I would even challenge Port City to try to incorporate that into some of their development and
That's a good
architectural
idea.
thoughts.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Definitely the infrastructure would, do it in place is actually better than trying to retrofit it after.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Any other questions from council?
Or windmills.
Oh, windmills. We've actually proven that windmills are not effective in Lisbon, I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. I also think that solar streetlights is a good idea for the streetlight issue where they got to tear up the sidewalks to do wiring and all that. Just do a solar streetlight.
For the 50186 or the Main Street project?
Yeah.
The 196 concern.
Those wires are there, but
I think
we did that once. We did that once, right down across from Rusty's.
definitely some discussion.
They run a lot of stuff. They run the crosswalks. They run the...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's no question about it. It will be what will happen eventually. It's just a matter of where you get there, right?
Yep.
Any other questions from town manager for his report? Seeing none. Next item, please.
Appointments, we have none. Next item is councilor communications.
Councils, any input? Anything to bring forward?
Just a quick little shout out to our NIMS training. Like, I know I go back to that a couple times, but I was driving down 196 to a pretty bad accident, and Mr. Leclerc was all by himself. People were off to the side of the road, and like 2 cars were completely smashed, and no one was there yet. And I literally stopped and pulled over and said, "Hey, I've done my NIMS training. Do you need help with anything?" Feeling confident that if he needed to be the lead, he could do it because he was solo for a little while. And I always think back to that as kind of sometimes corny as we think that may have been, or to do that on an off night, it almost gives you a little bit of confidence to step in or offer the help. So I thought that was kind of cool. So as
over command, did you?
No. Actually, I stood off to the side until everybody showed up, and
we're hiring. Hey, it's all good. I mean,
there were a lot of people, and he was solo, so I would felt bad.
Absolutely, it's good. Appreciate you stopping. Yep. Anything else as far as for council communications? No. Awesome. All right. Next item, please.
Next item, audience participation and response for new items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues not on the agenda.
At this point, I got to ask one at a time, please. So there's a crowd here. So yes, sir, you come first.
Nate LeClaire, Fire Chief. After listening to the manager's report and your response about fire trucks being out of service, I figured I'd give you this update. Engine 1 is out of service. That's the 2003 Pierce. It's the one of two engines located at E.T. Smith. It has a bad steering box that is beyond just being a wet steering box. It's a leaking steering box, which from a DOT CDL type of standpoint, it's out of service. That is, parts are back ordered, and the proprietary parts through the front end suspension manufacturer, so we're waiting indefinitely for those parts to come in. That looks like a $6,000 repair. I found out today that our foam pump on that same truck is bad. It's already been rebuilt once, and they don't make that pump anymore, so it has to be rebuilt at a machine shop, and we're looking at a cost up to potentially $10,000 to replace that pump. So as of right now, that truck is looking at $16,000 worth of repairs. What's keeping it out of service is the steering box. The foam pump is just an added insult to injury. But just to give you an FYI, that truck is sitting out of service, and we are waiting for parts, and we don't know when those parts are going to come in.
And you do have adequate apparatus to actually take
For
care of things?
now, but one more truck goes out of service, and we'll be hurting. So, like everything else.
Do you actually have your committee together now for your...
Yeah, and they've already started meeting. And what they have right now is their marching orders or to develop a rough idea of what we need for those trucks so we can get a more realistic budget, because the price of these fire trucks keep going up almost every other month. So we can have something to put towards referendum in November.
Is this truck actually one of the ones that would possibly be replaced in that process?
Yes.
All right. Good to know.
But even though we're still probably talking 2 years out for that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're still, it's kind of like the sewer issue early. You got to fix it, right? So you got to stay in business. But at least it's most of the time when you see stuff like that, it's an early sign that there's other items to come. So
when these things happen, I don't usually come and tell you about this one, but this one is a long term. I have no idea when those parts are going to come in for that steering box. I heard one mechanic said they've heard a 6-month back order on these parts.
You know, that's Pierce, you said?
Yeah.
I would tell you it would be due to their reputation to actually make that actually expedited, and I wouldn't even mind the idea of actually maybe having a letter come from our manager and whoever else directly to the company to actually, and this is a company that's all they do is fire trucks, so the idea of actually having a bunch of units out there not being serviceable, I don't think
it's Oshkosh that makes the front end suspension. Harry, it's lunch break. It's Oshkosh that actually makes that front end suspension. That's all proprietary through them. But it's the box and some of the other parts that go along with it. It's estimated to be that high, like the pitman arms, steering arms, things like that. So.
Yep. So I would just use any avenue we can to actually try to help move that. And the squeaky wheel sometimes gets the oil, right? So I'm not saying that we're going to bump up on the list,
and we have been bugging them weekly. We know that it doesn't help, but we've been bugging them weekly. So hoping that they'll get tired of hearing about it from us, and then when the parts come in, we get a little bit of that priority. So.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you for the update.
Yep, absolutely.
Anybody else in audience participation for items not on the agenda? Seeing no movement, we'll go to the next item, please.
Next item is executive session. We have two orders. Order 2022-109 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 405-6A personnel matters.
And we need to vote on these individually.
Yes, we do.
Last time, so I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we go into executive session for that order.
Second.
All those in favor? The next item?
Next item is Order 2022-110, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 4056D, labor negotiations.
I'll make that motion to go into session for 2022, 10, 11.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Do we expect a vote?
Yes, there will be a vote.
There will be a vote. Okay. Good to
Okay.
know.
It is 8:04. I'll be here when you get back.
All right, thank you. Absolutely, you can. Yep. You're still live, red light's on, so be good. There we are.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to come out of executive session for personnel matters.
Need a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to come out of executive session for labor negotiations.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Both orders passed, vote 6-0.
All right. Anything, make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to name the following people to serve on the Assistant Town Manager Search Committee: Daniel P. Michelle, Victoria Baldwin Wilson, Pauline Pelletier, George Roy, Tracy Austin, Mark Stevens, Kayla Tierney, Ryan McGee, Don Fellows, and Harry Moore.
Could it be possible that you add for both searches, the assistant and manager search? Because I think you listed just as assistant. Is that what we're looking for?
Okay, yeah, Assistant Town Manager and Town Manager Search.
Okay, thank you.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
And also, if I can just add, on Thursday and Friday of this week, we'll be conducting interviews for the assistant town manager position for the town of Lisbon.
Thank you.
Will it be held here?
That would be held here at the Lisbon Town Office in executive session.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Fellows, would you like to make a motion?
I can read off.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you-
Just trying to stay with the order here. We're following up.
I'd like to recommend the motion that the council ratify the 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2025 collective bargaining agreements for the bargaining unit covering patrol officers, detectives, and dispatchers that have been tentatively agreed to with the Fraternal Order of Police.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that motion as read, suggested motion as read.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
I'd like to recommend another motion that the council ratify the 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2025 collective bargaining agreements for the bargaining unit covering police sergeants and have been tentatively agreed to with the Fraternal Order of Police.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion in that order.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
I'd like to recommend motion to change main PERS plan for public safety employees. Motion to approve the following changes to the main PERS plan for eligible public safety employees effective July 1st, 2022 for future service only. The town agrees to providing coverage for its police officers who work more than 20 hours per week and who are not temporary or seasonal as defined by the appendix to main PERS rule, Chapter 802 under Special Plan 3C for services rendered after June 30th, 2022. Services rendered by police officers before July 1st, 2022 remains under Special Plan 2C. Provide coverage for its firefighters and dispatchers who work more than 20 hours per week and who are not temporary or seasonal as defined by the appendix to main PERS rule Chapter 802 under Special Plan 3C for service rendered after June 30th, 2022. Service rendered by firefighters and dispatchers before July 1st, 2022 remains under Regular Plan AC. To authorize Ryan McGee, interim town manager, or Fern LaRochelle, town council chair, to sign the amended agreement between the town and the Maine Public Employees Retirement System.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve that motion as read on the main PERS revision recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, Order 2022-111, to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you
Order
very much.
passed, 6-0.
I have paperwork for everybody to sign in that next room.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you want to stay longer.
All right, I'll get the camera.
Right, just vote no.
Thank you,
against,
guys. I appreciate you staying.
the motion to adjourn.
Everybody gets stuff breaking these days.